I'm Rana Al-Falaki.
I'm Bav,
and welcome to
the Nail It podcast.
This is your place to lead better, live fully and laugh more. It's your blueprint to optimal performance. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Nail It podcast. Bav, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How have you been? How's your week?
I've been great, but I haven't asked you the tagline because I didn't want to embarrass you this time. But do you want to announce it? The Nail It podcast.
Lead better, live fully, laugh more.
Woohoo! You got it.
Yeah, that's what we're about.
And we didn't even end up in next year. Thank you. I have had an amazing week. I've had a really, really crazy, busy week to the point where unfortunately it has reverted back to to-do lists. And the frustrating thing is I almost want to write things on my list that I've done that weren't there just for the pleasure of ticking them off.
Oh, I love doing that.
Do you?
I love a good list. Ticking that off. It's some therapy to ticking that off.
There's therapy to it, right? So if you didn't actually have, if you didn't had it written down and you found yourself spending ages that was actually really important and you didn't have that pleasure, very disappointing. So then
you get more done. You get more done, I think.
You get, well, you know my whole theory about to-do lists and productivity. It actually makes you less productive. But we digress.
Makes you feel better.
We have a guest to introduce. We'll talk about that another time. Who's our guest today?
Oh, I'm really excited about talking to this one, especially because he's such a good podcaster previously. I listened to a lot of his podcasts and really excited to speak to him today, actually. So it's Andy Acton. He's one of the directors at FTA and he's a dental broker.
Yeah, so Frank Taylor Associates now. God, now this shows how old we are, Bavin, because I remember Frank Taylor Associates at the time probably being about the only dental brokers. Like we're going back to the early 90s now, aren't we, Bav?
Oh, well, that's before my time. I was hardly born then.
Yeah, just get a little bit of a dig in.
Rub that in.
I want to know how old Bavin is. Follow his Instagram and he's got the year of his birth. You'll never find the year of my birth on there. Andy, welcome. So lovely to
Thank you very much for having me. Good to see you, Bavin. Good to see you, Anna. You sounds like you both had a good day.
We've had a great day. How does it feel to be on the receiving end of being interviewed rather than interviewing?
It's lovely because you just get to answer the questions. You don't do any of the prep. You don't have any of the stress of structuring it. Not that I'm putting any pressure on you.
We don't do any prep. I'm Andy. Join
the club.
Who are you again?
I just thought we were going to wing it anyway. Well, we do have one question. That's about as far as our structure goes, Andy. Let's open this podcast by you telling us what is your favorite quote and why.
Funny when you ask that, it's one of those ones that you kind of want to get it right because, you know, as we know, podcasts are recorded, they're digital, they last forever. So I went through sort of various things and I settled on whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And that's by Henry Ford, because I think it's just so true that I think in a busy world, and there's so much noise out there, that sometimes we don't always believe that we have control of our own thoughts and our own focus and our own attention and what we do. And it's easy to be led by other people or think that we can or can't do something. But what Henry Ford said was whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right, which kind of says we are in control of what we do ourselves and we have to make it happen. And Henry Ford was an absolute pioneer of his time. And there were many quotes that he came up with. But for me, that one, I think it stands a test of time. That still resonates with me today.
It's that self-talk again, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have to believe it, right? Because of course, if you don't believe that what you're doing is the right thing, then you're much less likely to succeed in it anyway. So whether someone else sits in judgment on you of being right or wrong, ultimately it's about your truth and what's right for you. So we
completely.
True versus truth. Remember that one, Bav?
Yeah, I do.
It's when Bav did the coaching diploma with me, and I think I spent half a morning teaching them this whole philosophical idea about what is true and what is truth.
And when you start to break that down, there's so many things that you believe are true, but they're not. That's your truth.
Completely. And I think increasingly it's harder to stay focused on what you're doing and whether you can do it, because there's so many people out there making it is just noise. It is just noise, but it becomes so distracting. And there's moments where everybody doubts themselves as to, the whole fake it till you make it type thing. But what you said, Rana, about you genuinely have to believe it. and not to pretend you believe it. You genuinely have to believe it, because you know, we're all in business in different capacities, and tough days come. There are some really hard days out there, and if it's something that you're pretending to believe, on tough days it will cripple you. So you've genuinely got to believe that you're doing the right thing for the right reasons, for the right people, in the right place. And if all that's good, you'll be fine. But if you're pretending, you'll get found out.
Yeah. And life's too short to do things like that, right?
God, yeah. I mean, we get one shot at this. You know, you've got to try and find something you enjoy. And, you know, in an ideal world, you do find something you enjoy. And if you don't, and life being what it is, sometimes people have to do jobs that they don't overly enjoy, but it does kind of pay the rent, it pays the mortgage. But then find something else that you can enjoy, because you do need that enjoyment in your life somewhere. If you can find it through your work, given how much time people typically spend at work, I think you've struck gold. But if you can't find it there, there's probably somewhere else that you can find something that will deliver some fun.
It's a little bit like I'm sidetracking a bit here, but have you ever heard about the bed theory?
The bed theory. What, where I'm going later on? Where I'm going later on tonight?
Oh God. Go on then. What's the bed theory, Rana? Go on. What's the bed theory?
So it's about the amount of money people invest in their beds. Right. And a lot of the time, people will not invest very much in a bed, and they think, "Oh my God, that costs a bit much. Well, a couple of £1,000, you know, just for a mattress or whatever." Until you highlight to them, how long do you actually spend in your bed? You know, typically, ideally, for good health, we should be there 7 to 8 hours a night. Yeah, and that's actually the solid sleep. So that's a third of your life. So how much investment is actually worth it in that bed for that quality and all the other things it gives you, the clarity of mental health, physical health, respite, all the rest of it. And so when you talked about your job, actually the beauty would be if you could be in a position where you could find the passion. And I often will say to people, okay, you might not love the whole thing, but then find the bit in it that you within it that you do love, because again, that's at least, well, for me it's about 2/3 of my life as an entrepreneur, but for most people, again, it's at least a third of their lives. And then again, it's worth the investment. So this is where we do dentistry. It's about invest in yourself, invest in your personal growth, in your professional development, invest in coaching, invest in mentoring, invest in learning, invest in your business, invest in getting advice from professionals like yourself, because that's what's going to help you find the joy within the bit that otherwise may seem like a struggle, which particularly for dentistry, that applies massively.
I think the other bit that's interesting about that is that you may work with people who derive massive joy from something that you find abominable. And you might be able to take a task from them because they really dislike doing something, but you love it. You know, for example, bookkeepers love, you know, putting things in the right column, making things total, playing with the numbers. Other people just find that they just don't want to get anywhere near it. So joy isn't you know, we all like the same thing. We all like different things. So sometimes it's carving out the bit that you like and perhaps offering something to somebody else, because they might be like, I'd love to do that. And you like,
a bit like Perio for me, to be honest. I don't do come gardening there.
Oh, it's landscaping. Thank you very much. We're much more high end nowadays.
I don't do endo. So yeah. I know exactly how you feel. Yeah.
I remember, I mean, it's very much how dentistry works, so isn't it? Dentist, and it's actually, I don't.
But it's true, yeah.
I'm going to send it out to an endodontist or a periodontist or someone to place implants, because I can't be bothered. And I actually did a survey once on trying to identify the different personality types within different specialties.
Yeah, there is, isn't there? There is.
It is. I mean, you know, it's
especially ortho.
I was about to say that. Yeah, the orthodontists. If any listening, we love you.
Yeah, we love orthodontists. We need them. Bit of wire bending.
Whenever you have to qualify, you know what's coming.
But they don't bend wire anymore either. It's already isn't it? But it's a very different personality type to say a periodontist, who tends to be a little bit more kind of into the wholesome and the holistic, and obsessed with millimeters. So we get on really with accountants because we understand what they're talking about. Then you got the endodontists, who are a little bit more narrow-minded and narrow-focused, rather than perio, which is the wide picture, but also focused on millimeters. then you've got your implantologists who are kind of more of that engineering, mechanically type mindset, and so it goes on.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, hearing you say that, and this is one of the constant challenges for dental practice owners, for business owners, is that you guys spend minimum 5 years at dental school learning a very technical, narrow discipline of dentistry. And then many of you then go on to do postgraduate qualifications, MSCs, in a specialty within dentistry. So you become outstanding at a very particular niche. However, as a practice owner and as somebody in dentistry, as a business person, you need to be really good at lots of things. Not excellent at anything, but you need to be really good at lots of things. And that doesn't naturally sit well with the dentist mindset and the dentist approach, because since you're doing your higher education, everything's got sharper and sharper and sharper, and you're learning one particular thing that you're outstanding at. And from a patient point of view, that's great for me, because I come and see you and you're really technically competent at something. But when you translate that into a business setting, and you need to be good at marketing, sales, HR, managing budgets, arranging finance, clinical quality,
managing people.
Yes. So you've got to do all these things, but that's not kind of how you're wired. Because as you were just describing all those specialties, perio guys like this, endo guys like this, ortho, all of that was about the technical detail. Yet when you move over the fence and you move into the business world, you need to be good at lots of things. And I think that's why lots of practice owners find the world quite stressful and hard, because they're not equipped and designed for that sort of world.
Absolutely. And we're going to get onto a bit more detail about some of the other things you've noticed as a broker, but also when we think about marketing, for example, no one knows you, your brand, your belief system, what you want to convey better than anybody else. And of course, you need to be able to stand out from the crowd, right? Because everybody does veneers or everybody does whitening, but what is it that makes you unique? And the trouble is, if you don't take the time to understand that and to understand that element, no person, you won't be able to hire the right person to be able to convey you either, right? So you've almost got to understand the stuff about it to hire the right person to do it for you as well, which then we just spirals into becoming more and more and more challenging. And you
oh, completely. The thing is, you're a leader, but where are you leading them to? If you don't know yourself, then you're just going for a wander.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So you end up thinking, the classic mindset of most people, most practice owners are, I just want it done for me.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, well, what exactly do you want done? Because if you want it done well, you do actually have to take some time to invest and understand.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think once you've done that investment of time, you understand where you're going and the people you need and the standards you're working to, I think actually co-opting people onto your team is relatively straightforward. But there's no substitute for doing that work yourself. You need to go through that process. You need to understand, what drives you. Why is your practice unique? So then when you work with a third party, you can explain to them what you're trying to achieve, because then that's a clear brief and they can then act on that. Whereas if it's a bit woolly, then you're not sure, or that doesn't inspire your team, because they don't really know that what they're doing. So they might do the wrong thing, but they didn't really do the wrong thing. They didn't know what to do in the first place. People are trying to create either content or support services for you, but that's, again, not against a clear brief. So I think you're right. I think it very much starts with understanding what it is that you want out of this. And there's no one answer for everybody. It can have different answers.
It's discovering your values, right? As a business.
Your values, your needs, your purpose, your people. There is actually so much to it. Well, they're all elements of Nail It, aren't they? They're all elements, but comes under that integrity piece as well. All of that authenticity that needs to shine out.
Yeah, and you get found out really quickly if you're not authentic.
Oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. You certainly do. So Andy, you when you came on, and I'm so thrilled that you agreed to be a guest for us, and you said to me, I've come up with this kind of theory with these 5 systems, and I think this would be something that would be really interesting for listeners to talk about.
Yeah. Well, so I've been in this game for just over 25 years, selling dental practices.
You don't look old enough. You don't look old enough, Andy.
I started at 8. Honestly, I started at 8. It was a great great education. But the thing that stood out for me is it's building on what I was saying before. Dentists and practice owners, they're not particularly well equipped to be business owners. Not their fault. In dental school, it doesn't get.
We're not taught this. We're not taught this.
It's not a paragraph in the syllabus. Nobody mentions, and this isn't just for business owners. Even as an associate, you're a self-employed person, and if you understand business as an associate, you are more valuable to your principal if you understand the basic mechanics of business. But what I've seen over those 25 years happen is there's a thing called owner fatigue that develops. And it kind of breaks down into 4 chunks. To start with, you buy practice, it's exciting. That's kind of the ignition phase. You know, you're growing, you're learning endlessly. It's just so amazing and exciting. You then get to the point where you want to expand. So you've got through that kind of rabbit in the headlights phase and you want to expand the practice. And that's probably around the 3 to 5, 3 to 6 years, something like that. So then you've grown your business, and then it's about optimization. How do I grind the gears? How do I, squeeze everything and get everything working as smoothly as it should be? And that's an exciting phase. But then what happens, and it happens at different times to different people, but it's normally around about 8 to 10 years, you plateau. And at that plateau, very quietly, owner fatigue sets in. And I've distilled down what I think owner fatigue into 5 different categories. It's the emotional load of constantly having it on in your brain calories, the mental load of owning and running a business. It never really goes away. You've then got lifestyle misalignment in that a business requires an awful lot of you. And if you have a family, and I think it's probably worse for women, because I think there's kind of, mother guilt and working. I think it's worse for women than for men. But there's still this lifestyle misalignment of feeling perhaps you're giving a disproportionate amount of your time to your business than to your family. And I think that can be stressful. You then have decision fatigue. You're being asked 100 questions a day, and you've got to give the answer because you're the boss. And sometimes you don't feel equipped to give those answers. The 4th element is role creep. And what that is you thought you were going to be a dentist and perhaps the CEO, MD. So suddenly you're in charge of IT and you're in charge of HR, and suddenly you're a campaign manager for your meta ads. I didn't sign up for any of that. How did that happen? I just wanted to own a dental practice. And then the very last part is exit readiness. And this is stressful for many practice owners because they don't feel there's a way out. If you plan your exit, you do not need to sell. Planning your exit and selling your dental practice are 2 completely different things. At some point, they're going to be connected, but they don't have to be. And I believe that everybody should always have a plan as to what their exit is going to be and have a loose idea of what that looks like. Whether they execute that or not, they don't need to. And so I've designed this program to help people understand whether they're suffering with owner fatigue or not. And it might be that you're in a zone where you're really enjoying things and actually you're putting ticks in all the boxes and it's no problem at all. But if you are exhibiting those early signs, you've got a couple of choices. You can rejig how you work. It might be a really simple thing like work 1 day a week less. You'll be happier, less stressed. It will deal with your lifestyle misalignment and you won't have as many decisions to make because there's probably somebody in your practice who can do that. So there's some really easy fixes. If someone's in the doldrums and they've been there for quite a while, they might need to sell their dental practice. But there will be a lot of people along that line somewhere who have actually got a great business and it could just be tweaked a bit and they would fall back in love with it.
I think that's where people like us come in, Rana, is with coaching, is trying to getting under that surface of why is that person stressed? What is they are so unhappy about, and how we can tweak and help make it better, or allow them to discover themselves a bit better.
Yeah. But it quietly burns away as well. You notice from the clients you talk to, quite often there'll be a moment, and when they start talking, you realise there's lots of build up. There's lots of things that have been happening, and suddenly there's quite a lot to unpick. But normally, that phrase, there's always a straw that breaks the camel's back, isn't there?
Yeah. And it's usually that one thing that they pick up on, they hang their hat on and go, that's the problem. But it's not actually that; it's more upstream.
Exactly right.
Andy, just one question before Rana comes on. If people are thinking about planning their exit, how long is that period? Would you suggest? What would you say you would need to have in order to plan the ideal exit?
In a perfect world, it's 3 to 5 years, which sounds an extraordinary amount of time. And there are very few people that plan it with that horizon in mind. And the reason that's important is any change that you make in your business today is going to take probably 6 to 9 months to filter through to your financials. And then we need to see that that change is sustainable. And then it will feature in your year-end financial accounts. Anyone who's buying a practice is buying the consistency of income, the reliability of that patient base, and they want to know that it's sustainable. So you need to have at least an 18-month window of making changes, letting them flow through to the financials and prove that they've been sustainable. The sale process takes about a year. So if someone's thinking of getting out in, say, 3 years' time, it's going to take a year to sell the practice. So they've got 2 years to make some changes which could improve the value of their practice. And quite often the changes don't need to be significant. So a value of a dental practice is two numbers multiplied. So you have the underlying profitability of the business, and then you have the multiple of profit. The multiple of profit is based on comparable evidence of other dental practices like yours that are sold, and the underlying profit you control as a business owner. But let's just say that the multiple that's been implied is a factor of 5. If you could adjust your underlying profit to the tune of £20,000, which isn't a huge amount of money, you could have added £100,000 to the value of your business. If you come to me and say, I want it valuing now and I want it to go to the market for sale straight away, I've got no time. There's nothing I can do to help you do that, because we need to make sure that we can present consistent numbers. But if you come to me with 2 or 3 years to go, then we can actually make some changes. If we could add 20, 30, 40,000 pounds to the bottom line and it's on a multiple of 5 times, that's a considerable increase to the value of your practice. But it does require you to take a longer term planning view.
Yeah.
So Andy, have you ever done, is this what you're doing with your principals club now? That you're
doing? Yeah, so the principals club is that's something slightly different. That is a community for practice owners. There's a lot of attention on the corporates. I think the vernacular, the DSO has landed on our shorts in the USA fairly recently. But corporates are DSOs. They seem to get a lot of help and a lot of support and a lot of attention. But there's the independent dental practice owner who kind of feels a bit lonely and a bit out there. And the Principals Club is a community for independent dental practice owners to join the club. It's free to join. They can network with other people in their situation. They can join webinars. They get a newsletter. They get access to information, some data, some metrics about running dental practices. Because I'm in a very privileged position. Across my group of companies, we get to visit 500-600 dental practices a year. So I see the good, the bad, and the ugly. Most people who own a dental practice, they only see their one, or they might see a friend's practice, but they don't really know how they're doing. But we have a lot of data, so we can anonymize that data and we can share it with them to let them know whether they're doing well or they're not doing well. And if they're doing really well, stretch your arm out, give yourself a pat on the back. And if you're not, we might be able to make some suggestions to help them improve. And it's kind of at a very high level. It's trying to deal with and combat the loneliness and the hard reality of owning and running a business. And you've been there, right? You know what that looks like.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So I mean, I was joking with you, wasn't I, when I said, oh yeah, actually, yeah, I can think about that fatigue. I think it's my marriage and my practice both about that. A new 9-year itch. But I think with me it was so I started off with a practice within a practice in Central London, a perio practice. That was great. And then when I had my second child, it was a case of, okay, I'll set up a squat closer to home. And in those days, I mean, having a specialist practice outside of Harley Street was almost unheard of. But I obviously did it, and I grew it from 1 surgery to 3 surgeries, and then 9 years later I sold it to a corporate. And my journey there was super excitement. It was pre-CQC, and it was literally like having a family around me. You know, I remember then when I did get divorced, you know, they helped me move house even. I mean, this was like my team were literally like my family, and we all looked after each other. It was wonderful. And then I always joke saying I was probably a victim of my own success, because as you said, you go through that lifestyle. You know, I had 3 kids. I've got financial responsibilities, trying to earn, dealing with a referral practice, dealing with associates, dealing with hygienists. All the responsibilities come on you. And for me, when you talked about decision fatigue, it brought back a scene. And I think it might have been either when I was going through my divorce or when I wasn't very well. And I just remember my practice manager talking to me at the time, and she just needed decision after decision after decision. And I was just so overwhelmed. Now, it was nothing to do with the dentistry, but I literally couldn't take any more. And it was literally like this massive fog come over me. And I just said, I've got to get out of here. And I got in my car, and actually this is a bit of a dark story now, but I think I just felt so down at that point of like, I can't cope with life anymore. I lived in a forest, and I remember driving through the forest to my then rental home, thinking it would be so easy to crash the car right now.
It's terrible, isn't it?
All I thought of was actually, wait, hang on, I've got 3 young kids. Don't be so stupid, Rana. But I went home, and I remember literally taking off all my clothes and just getting into bed, and phoning my nanny at the time and saying, please don't bring the kids back yet. And then when I tried to get up the next morning, and I couldn't even walk. So it just goes to show what that emotional stress does to you. And that kind of, I mean, obviously it was fine in the end, but you know, you pick yourself up and you smile and you get on, and then everything's hunky-dory, and you get back on track. And it was a coach that helped me, Bhavin, exactly. A coach that helped me realize, in my case, that actually I could still be a leader without needing to have the label of being a practitioner. Then I made the decision to sell. So there are a couple of things going on there. One is actually, when you make a plan, and this is with anything, once you have a plan, you always feel a bit better. So even if the plan is 3 years away, you've finally made the decision. And that automatically makes you feel that actually I could go on with this a little bit longer, and then you might actually find the joy. Again, because in your mind you've exited from the stress, and you're back to driving forwards again, whatever that driving forwards is. And so there's no shame in changing your mind. So actually, Andy, so the other question I wanted to ask you is, when you've helped dentists plan their exit, have any of them changed their mind and decided, you know what, I love this now, I'm not going to sell?
Occasionally, but it's rare. Occasionally, it's rare.
Because I was hoping you were going to have this wonderful fairy story.
No, I'm afraid
it wouldn't be good for business, though, would it, Andy?
No, I'm afraid there's no fairy tale ending. It doesn't make a great Hollywood movie. And I think the reason for it is that by the time people come and talk to somebody like me, they're probably already a couple of years into the journey. They've been chewing on this and mulling on it, and it's been bothering them, and it's been ruminating around in their mind for quite a while before they've even started to articulate it. So I think that they're quite a way down the path by the time they come and talk to somebody like me. My hope is that in the coming years, we will get people who are a bit disgruntled, they don't have a pathway, they don't really know where they're going, and we might be able to help those people. But part of the reason for highlighting owner fatigue as being an issue now is trying to get people ideally a year or 2 before the position that you got to, because that was quite an acute outpouring of probably a question about, can I order some more TP brushes? It was just one decision too many. It was just one. It didn't matter what the question was. It was just one decision too many. But if we can get people to understand that there's a way of managing that and helping them, that would be really good. But it does require people to have some kind of self-awareness. And I've designed a very, very simple 7-question scorecard to help people go through a process and answer 7 questions and see where they're at. Because quite often when we're stuck in the weeds, we don't know. We don't really know where we're at. You know, that for you probably felt like whilst you were spinning lots of plates and they were all wobbling, you didn't think that they were going to fall at any time. And I think it's like when you're juggling. You know, when you're juggling, you never drop one ball, you drop them all. And I think owning a business and being stressed can be a bit like that. You survive and you muddle through for so long, but when it goes wrong, it can be catastrophic. And anything that we can do, collectively as supporting dentists and practice owners, is good for them, but it's also good for the profession and their patients as well.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, it was obviously it's like you said. There's a lifestyle issue there, right? It's what else is going on in your life that could then stop you from. So then, like I said, it could be something as trivial as TP brushes. It's not the TP brushes that really go over the edge. It was just literally everything else in the business. Part of that is like I just can't take anymore. But also, actually, when I did then make the decision to sell, and I didn't then obviously put it on the market straight away, but with everything we teach people at Nail It, we doubled the turnover in the space of a year. Doubled it.
Yeah. And I think where people are up for it, and they've got the resources and they're resilient enough to do that, that final year or two can be hugely fulfilling. And depending on what they want to go on in the future, that can be a great springboard. So when they go on to the next thing, they go on to that in really good shape, as opposed to completely exhausted on the verge of burnout, because that's not going to set them up for the next phase of their life particularly well.
And then, of course, when it does come to selling practices, so I being the age I am, Bav, a little bit older than you, have quite a few friends who are starting to think about retirement. And I'm often saying to them, look, start planning it now, because you don't know if your practice is sellable at this point. You're going to need to get it up to that stage. You might have a tie-in period, a lot of private practices. So it doesn't mean you can just walk away the minute you sign on the dot. So presumably if they came to have a conversation with you, Andy, you would look at all of that, as well as trying to find them the right type of buyer, depending what their exit strategy and desire is, right?
Oh, totally, completely. And I think one of the phrases I detest more than anything is one size fits all. It's one size fits one. That's what it should be. In the world that I live in, we need to look at each practice and each practice owner as an individual and work up a script and a plan that suits them. If you sell to an independent dentist, you will get all your money on completion, and most of them walk out of practice on the day of completion and then never go back. If you sell to a corporate, you'll probably get something like 55, 60, possibly 70% up front, and you'll retire in 3 to 5 years. Both of those are perfectly good exits, depending on who you are and your situation. But if you leave it too late, one of those can be incredibly stressful, because if you have an ambition to sell and you don't want to stay around, but your ideal buyer is a corporate and you might be tied in for 3 to 5 years, that's not a great situation. Whereas if you plan it earlier, it gives you choices and it gives you options. And it's back to what I said before about, I think people think that planning your exit leads to your exit. You can plan your exit and then you can exit down the line. You think of it like writing your will. Doesn't mean you're going to die. It just means you wrote a will. And you can plan your exit, but it doesn't mean you've got to sell your practice. So it's getting people into a frame that says it's just good business sense to know what it's worth, know what my options are, and now I've got a timeline and a horizon. And actually that does de-stress the situation as well.
Yeah, exactly. Back to having a plan and having a final vision and having a final goal, which gives you something to aim for as well.
Yes.
I mean, it's funny because a lot of business owners, young business entrepreneurs these days know their exit strategy even before they've even established their own business, right?
Yes.
They know how, when, and what value they want to exit at. And they know that from the outset. And it's funny, eventually you sort of plod along until you can't bothered with it anymore, and then you say, all right, I'm going to exit, and you want to exit within a year. That's not going to work for us.
Lots of practice owners, they're reluctant entrepreneurs. They never really wanted to own and run a business. They just felt that it was kind of the way of controlling their future and giving themselves more security and perhaps building some wealth down the line. But they didn't ever really want to have to do that whilst owning a dental practice, where you're right, we have some younger dentists and some of these guys are still at dental school. And they're badgering me about the multiples of groups. And I'm like, geez, when I was your age, I was not thinking about the multiples of a dental group, believe me. But it's how
was other things,
it's just how the world changes. And the thing is, we need them. We need all sorts within dentistry. We need people who are completely committed to purely clinical dentistry. We need people who want to grow groups, and we need everybody in the middle. It has to be a real mixed bag of a community.
Workforce.
Because there's lots of chatter, particularly within some groups, about the dirtiness of the business of dentistry, and it's not about profit. It shouldn't be about making money. The brutal truth, it is, because if it doesn't tick that box, you can't invest in the technology to provide outstanding patient care. You're not going to attract good people into your business because you won't be able to pay them the right money, so they can't support your patients. The two are inextricably linked. You can't have great clinical outcomes and great patient care and not have a profitable business. And for sure, the clinical bit wins. That's the priority because you're clinicians, but you can't take your eye off the business side of things. You need to be running a good, profitable business as well.
The same way as how you have to run a school. Schools.
Yes.
The hospital gets given
hospitals.
To work within that budget. We're going to run out of time, but we've got this other amazing question that we want to ask you at the end. But I just want to draw on that young dentist thing, and I just wanted to ask you, because there's increasing talk now about this idea of associates effectively almost being practice within a practice, and so associates being business people for a principal, which would ultimately obviously help them have a lot more autonomy, but also be more responsible and professional. What are you seeing? What trends are you seeing in that now?
I think this has been spawned, fueled, and driven by social media. This wasn't possible 10 years ago. Now, with each individual having their own voice and platform to speak to the public directly, it's now very doable. And so in those situations, an individual dentist can create their own, say, Instagram channel. They can profile their work, they can request DMs, and patients approach them directly. The challenge that it brings from an ownership point of view and from a value point of view is having what comes down to a grown-up conversation with that associate, because the generation of patients is really important, because in any business, the recruitment of new business is one of the most valuable things that you can have. So that associate is generating new business, generating patients. However, they still need an environment to treat those patients in. So it's having a grown-up conversation, if you are one of those associates, with the principal, to agree what the mechanism is in terms of the facilities you use, but really importantly early on, agreeing who owns those patients. Because if you're working in a practice and you have profile, but that practice is still generating those patients belong to the practice. If you're generating those patients yourself through your own hard work on your own social media profile, you need to have a conversation with the principal that says, look, if I'm generating patients and treating them in your practice, what's the mechanism to reward me for those? Or you have a contract that excludes those patients from the practice. But it requires a grown-up conversation with openness on both sides, as opposed to it being done in a little underhand way, because that's not good. And this isn't going away. We're in a world where increasingly people are able to get very high profile and do very well. And we're also seeing facilities where, as an independent dentist, you can just go and rent space. So there's Until. We've got some Until sites in London, and they were initially introduced for personal trainers, but they've now got suites for doctors and blood specialists and dentists. So as a hygienist, a therapist, or a dentist, you can rent space in Until and you can treat your patients there. So that's an environment which wasn't there a few years ago, but for associates is amazing, because you keep all the revenue, you just pay your rental to Until, and you just set yourself up in business, but you don't have a permanent location as a dental practice.
Yeah, and all their responsibility
with
it, right? Yeah, and so associates we've worked with and principals we've worked with, it's almost helping them look again at the contract, because principals go crazy about the fact you've got associates taking ridiculous amounts of annual leave or constantly phoning in sick, because that they may lack that professionalism, or they think, oh well, I'm self-employed, so it doesn't matter, I'll take the hit that I don't earn money, without realizing that actually the practice principal is far more out at that point.
Yes.
So we do a lot of work with practices on both helping with that negotiation and helping them have those adult conversations. And you're absolutely right. Actually, it's great if you have an associate like that, but they also need rewarding and incentivizing.
Yes. Yeah. And done well, both parties should succeed. It should be good for the practice, because they need to treat the patients somewhere, so it will raise and elevate the profile of the practice. But also, I think principals need to understand that if that associate is generating the patients off their own back, the reward system would be slightly different. So rather the model where the practice takes the money and pays the associate a fee, it may be that the associate rents the space from the practice for treating their patient. There's a number of ways that it can be looked at, but I think it starts with a good, open, honest conversation, and then agreeing a structure that's committed to a contract, and everyone can relax and get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Andy. I just thought it's such a current topic. And
yes.
Ask the expert. So we have one last question for you. Bav, do you want to do the honours?
Yeah. So Andy, in your many years of experience and obviously working with the dental community, obviously our 7 pillars of Nail It, what do you think is the most important, or which do you think is the most important, and why?
I think it's attitude. I think it's attitude. I think it's maintaining focus. And it kind of links back to the quote that I had about like the Henry Ford, if you think you can, you think you can't, you're right. I think your attitude and maintaining your focus is so critical, because they're your goals and you need to maintain focus for what's important to you. And for me, I think the thing that's really important is people need to understand that this may by some be seen as being selfish. You know, your attitude focusing on what's important to you might come across as being selfish. But if you don't have the attitude to drive what's important to you and focus on your goals, nobody else is going to do it. So for me, attitude is everything. And also, it's one of the things you control. You know, that whole control the controllables. We all can control our attitude. We wake up every morning, we get out of our lovely 8 hours of sleep on my beautiful mattress that I spent a lot of money on, and I decide what my attitude is going to be like every single morning. And nobody can take that away from me. And like with any muscle you work, the more of a positive attitude you have on an ongoing basis, it just becomes muscle memory. It becomes easier and easier. But for me, I think that maintaining focus and a positive attitude it really stood out for me.
That's brilliant. Well, actually, so I have a bit of a stickler here. I'd say actually it's never about just positive attitude, because the reality is you can't maintain positivity all the time, right? But actually attitude is, I mean, it gets the old 80-20 rule, but I think the stats are actually something like 87.5% is actually about your attitude, and the other 12.5% is literally about the knowledge that you have. So we think about why people succeed. So it's 4 components, that part of the Nail It system. So we have 4 S's there. So it's what I call the sustainable success toolkit. So the positivity comes into it, and that comes into one of the elements that we call smile. So about being happy and being positive. The other bit is self-talk, which Bav touched on earlier as well. Positive self-talk, negative self-talk. So what are you telling yourself? A lot of the time it's so subliminal, people don't even realize. And actually I think this number's something like it's over 85, I think it's 85% of your thoughts are actually negative, and 95% of them are repetitive. So if you're feeding yourself negative self-talk all the time, you really do have to become conscious about your self-talk as well. The other element is strength. So this is what you were talking about. So strength includes determination, grit, focus, resilience, you know, being able to bounce back, being able to see opportunity, being able to shift from failure as much as possible. And the last one is about solutions. So again, being solution focused, having an open mind, always trying to have a growth mindset, solve problems, and like, don't tell me the problems, find the solutions, and keeping that. So there's a lot involved in attitude, absolutely, beyond just positivity. Absolutely.
And I think also a lot of it's environment dependent, isn't it? You know, if you're in a team or with people that you bounce well off, and they're generally positive in their outlook, it kind of drags you along if you're having a bad day. Doesn't it?
So all those tools to create that exactly in your environment, your influences, the people you're around. Dentistry, you've got to create that right environment to help maintain that attitude. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, Andy, it's been such a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
I've enjoyed it. It's been an absolute hoot.
Goodness, we could talk to him for hours. I think we're going to have him back, Bav.
Oh, definitely. Part 2, Andy. This is what, 201? This is your 201st
Yes.
episode? Yeah. You could just come and join us, mate. Let's do a 3-way.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. The gold backdrop. I mean,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. My
Anyone
popular
watching on
backdrop.
YouTube, you'll see the gold backdrop Andy's got. It's worth just going onto YouTube and checking it out.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, actually, do you know the video shows up on Spotify as well, actually?
Oh, does it?
Yeah, but I probably shouldn't mention that, given it might end up on other podcast channels, and then it's like, oh my God, promoting competitors. Anyway, I digress. Andy, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. How can people get in hold of you, Andy?
Probably the easiest way, I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way. If you stick my name in and stick dental after it, I should pop up. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions, the world I work in is highly confidential, but everybody's situation is unique. So if anybody listening to this does have a question, drop me a DM and I'll get back to them with the answer.
Amazing. So yeah, Andy Acton Dental. That's how you'll find him. Thanks.
Yes.
Andy. Bye-bye.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Keep well, both. Cheers. Ta-da.
Wow, Bav, that was incredible.
Oh, mate, it was. He's a legend in the game, isn't he?
He really is. He's such a wealth of information. Like, you'd never think a dental broker could be so energizing and
so interesting. And so interesting. You don't meet people outside of dentistry that interesting, really. Especially accountants, like type of people.
Just imagine like going out for a beer or coffee with him, couldn't you? He's just...
do you know what? I think we could have. We literally should get him on again. I think there's a wealth of knowledge there, and like I say, it's what people want to know. And the thing is, people don't talk about these things. They don't talk about finances within practices. And exactly as Andy said, especially if you're an independent, you feel so lonely in dentistry, don't you? And it's great that he's got this club of people that can get together and throw ideas about and just ask. No such thing as a silly question, because if you don't know, you don't know. And where are you going to find this information if you don't have dental friends or family? If you're in the suburbs on your own in a practice, it's a lonely place. And it's great that we've got these communities now in dentistry, and it's great for just support.
Brilliant, because otherwise it's the competition, isn't it? And actually, it sounds like Andy brings it. Forget about the competition. You can all be there to support each other, which is wonderful, right?
And that's what this is about. It's about us helping everyone up.
Always. So actually, so to our listeners, because we have some polls as well that show on some of these podcast channels, if you do have anything else some burning questions that you would love to hear, give us a list and then we'll get Andy on again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And any questions you want to ask us as well?
Yeah, yes, always.
What's your mattress, Rana? Your mattress? Do you know what mine? Actually, this is no joke. I
don't want to know about your mattress.
My bed moves, and I can talk to it. It's voice controlled.
Your bed is voice controlled.
Mode. It's got zero gravity mode. It's awesome, and it's got a massaging feature. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm speechless right now.
I'm not even joking. Anyway, I digress.
On that note about Bavin's high-tech zero gravity massaging bed,
brought it up.
Voice control that you share with your wife.
Yeah, of course. No. I kicked her out a long time ago. She's in the spare room.
Oh, good old AI and robots. Hey, no, let's just stop there. Okay. All right, then, thank you for tuning in. We look forward to welcoming you on our next episode. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks for listening. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Nail It podcast. We would love it if you would leave us a 5-star review. And if you'd like to feature as one of our guests or you're ready to nail it, then check out our events, programs and educational courses by visiting nailitindentistry.com.